a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our board meeting today. I'm Sue Wilson, President of the 2021 Board of Directors. This regular meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Board of Directors is audio and video recorded by the RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. Please take out your cellular phones and electronic devices and check them to ensure that they're all put on silent mode. After our last meeting, where our parliamentarian was in attendance and following her recommendations, we are changing our agenda to better reflect Robert's Rules of Order. Over the last few months, we have heard many comments about members requesting that we adhere strictly to following all of Robert's Rules of Order. We have listened to you, and you will notice a change in the agenda and the flow of the meeting starting today. You will notice that as president of the board, I will only vote when there is a tie. You will also note that for member comments, you will be allowed to come to the microphone 2 times. Please understand that Robert's Rules of Order do not allow for member comments, but until we can finalize going to a board member exchange in early 2022, we will continue member comments, but limiting it to just 2 times. First item of business is a roll call of voting members by Secretary Lair.
Director Hoffer?
Here.
Director Westmeyer?
Here.
Director Akins?
Here.
Treasurer Rooney? Here. Vice President Egge?
Here.
Director Collins? Director Schroeder?
Here.
Director Wilson?
Here.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
Okay, I would now like to introduce our timekeeper, our parliamentarian, and our management personnel. Our timekeeper is Director Rich Hofer. Our parliamentarian is Ray Chornenke. I get it. And our management that are here today, we have Bill Cook, our general manager, Kevin McCurdy, our director of finance, and Jolynn Higgins, our communications and RCSC marketing coordinator. We also have Marcia Johnson here, who is our board coordinator.
Good morning.
And I would also like to ask, oh, I'm sorry, don't want to skip these people. I also want to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Mike Crawford, who's up in the booth, as our audiovisual engineers, who operate all audio at this and other events. Okay, now I'd also like to welcome all RCSC cardholders who are attending our meeting for the first time. Would you please stand? Thank you. Okay, I'd like to now to ask if there are any corrections to the minutes that were posted previously. Any corrections? No. Okay, seeing no corrections, then our minutes stand as stated. Minutes are approved. Okay, introduction of our board candidates. Director Hofer.
Thank you, Madam President. When I read the names of our candidates, please stand up and remain standing until everybody's been had their name called. Frank Thorwald, Candy Ruggiero, Stella Van Ness, Alan Lenevsky, John Nowakowski, Kat Fimmel, and Karen McAdam. These are the 7 candidates vying for 4 seats on our board this year. And the elections are actually underway right now. You can vote online on the web portal. You can also vote via absentee ballot by going to the board office at Lakeview and picking up a ballot, or you can have it mailed to you. The election itself will take place a week from tomorrow. That is the 14th of December from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that will be held at Lakeview. And Social Hall number 2, you can vote in person. Make sure you bring your yellow striped member card with you to that event. We will announce the winners for the candidates at about 4:15, 4:30, whenever we get all of the ballots in and tabulated, and they'll be notified, and then we'll have an email blast and let everybody else know as well through Joe Lynn, who does a great job with that. I'll tell you what, these guys have done an excellent job this year, and if you would, please give them a round of applause. Thank you, candidates. You may be seated. And thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Director Hofer. Okay, we have no committee recommendations today, so moving on to unfinished business. The first item on unfinished business is the approval of the PIF budget, which will be read by Secretary Lair.
Madam President, I would like to amend the motion.
Okay.
I'd like to amend the motion to say, I move to approve the Preservation and Improvement Fund budget with a fee at $4,000.
Okay.
PIF fee of $4,000.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, would you please read the names of the card holders who signed up to speak on this motion?
Jean Totten, Chris Tracy, Christy Svensson, Sherry Marshall, and Joe Broge.
Okay, so those names that were read as having signed up to comment on this motion, please line up on the floor at the microphone, and when recognized, please state your name and member number and whether you are speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. Before we begin, Secretary Laird, do you wish to speak first on this motion?
Madam President?
Yes.
The reason I'm making the a move to amend this is because it was a little wordy, and it's the essence is basically the same. I just thought it would be cleaner.
Okay. All right. Yes, at the microphone, please.
Jean Totten, number 148753, Madam President, Directors of the Board and Management. I am here to say I'm not in favor of the motion regarding the Preservation and Improvement Fund budget as presented by Bill Cook to the board at the last meeting, nor am I in favor of raising the PIF fee at this time. If I understand what transpired previously regarding the Mountain View plan, the architects for the project were given a list of the dreams and wishes to capture in architectural plans. And if I am correct, they were not given any financial constraints or budget restrictions whatsoever. So now, well into the process, we finally, at just the last board meeting, were presented with the price tag. While the official PIF budget originally had a placeholder of $17.5 million for Mountain View, and this is on the RCSC website, the last time I looked, listed under the May 2020 PIF budget. We are now told that the project will actually cost between $40 and $50 million. $40 and $50 million. That is well over twice the actual cost that we have incurred for any other facility in Sun City. Now that we have those total budget figures, was there ever any discussion whether the board or the membership really wants all that that plan encompasses at that price? And as you sit here today, deciding whether or not to go forward with the budget, is the Mountain View project an example of the way you perceive new projects in the future to be decided? Does the board conduct a town hall to query membership saying, just tell us what you want, and then simply say, we'll have those plans drawn up to fulfill your wishes and dreams? When the plans come back, we'll just accept whatever price tag comes with them. Is this going to be the new normal? The real question is not, what do you want, but what are you willing to pay for what you want? Did you ever consider that second question? And just a note, I'd like everyone up there and here to know that Sun City West has a lower PIF than $4,000. Sun City West. And also remember that the Lakes West East project that came in at over twice the original estimated cost on the May 2020 PIF budget was estimated to be $17.5 million, and you approved it for $4 million.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Tracy. I am RCSC member number 125567, and I'm a card holder. I agree exactly with what Jean has just expressed on the financials. I do want to encourage all of you to remember that just a month ago, you defeated soundly a PIF raise to $4,000. On that point alone, because this is piggybacking on a budget, please vote no.
Thank you.
I couldn't have said it better myself, so I'm just saying slow down, and I vote no. Thank you.
Okay, and your name and number?
Christy, I'm sorry, Christy Svensson, 137489. Thank you.
Hello, Sherry Marcio, 14465. And I want to piggyback on the other members as well that have presented this morning. And I think that if you're committed to transparency and if working cooperatively with the membership you represent is even moderately important to you, then I urge you to vote no on the second reading of this motion. Let's let this process play out as intended with an informed membership to whom you have listened and to whom opinions you have been given a fair hearing. There's no urgency to moving this proposal ahead. Let the 2022 board move this one forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Broush, 155997, Madam President, board members. First, like to, against the motion, first like to say thank you to Mr. Cook and his staff for all this data. Hopefully, given this foundation, the PIF plan can be updated and reviewed annually going forward. But I also have to mention the continued practice of withholding, denying, or delaying any of this type of information is certainly not open and transparent. Excuses of it might confuse people, and or missing headers or watermarks are not legitimate. Regarding the motion itself, I would ask you to vote no, or at least postpone, or whatever the proper word is, until people have had a chance to digest the numbers. Very specifically, the objections brought forth by Directors Hoffer and Collins should be addressed and discussed. The thing that concerns me the most, and correct me if I'm mistaken, multiple board members at multiple times have said the way for members to really be involved in the process is to join committees. And while I understand the committees have provided input into the line items here, I've yet to see the committee's response to these actual numbers, some of which are obviously 100% over what they were providing input on. Considering this is a $100 million budget, extending out 14 years, it would appear sensible and prudent, at the very least, to get input from members of both budget, finance, and long-range planning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, the motion before you is the approval of the Preservation and Improvement Fund with a PIF fee at $4,000. Discussion from the board. Yes, Secretary Lair.
Madam President, just a quick comment on some of the members who came up. There seems to be a lack of understanding on how when you put something down on the PIF project, and I guess I would say to the people who came up, have you ever been here for like the Grand Avenue project or for Fairway or for any other of the big projects that we've done? Because generally, you put a placeholder in there, it's just a chunk of money that it doesn't reflect what the actual cost is going to be. It's just a placeholder. And then once you develop it, that's when the figure goes. So it's not like we just jumped up a phenomenal amount of money from a placeholder. I just want to make that real clear.
Okay.
Madam President?
Yes, Director Akins.
I would like to add that the last time, the PIF was initiated in 1999. The last time it was raised was 2015, when it was raised to $3,500. There has not been an increase in 6 years. So when you go to that, it's about $127 a year. Somebody mentioned that Sun City West PIF fee is lower than ours. Well, they probably can do that because they make up for it with their annual membership, annual property fee, which is twice ours. And you can get this from Cardholder Services. It shows that we are paying $496, and right now they're paying $994. So they pay twice as much as we do. And that has not been raised in 5 years either. These numbers cannot stay the same realistically forever. We have to increase eventually. Thank you.
Other discussion? Okay, I would just like to point out the PIF plan is a plan. Every year, the board meets on it. Next year's board may look at it and say, we need to move this project down. We could have ADWR come in and say, this has to be done now. There is no administrative relief, and so things are going to move. That happens. But to have a plan at least tells us where we're headed. And again, yes, going to 4,000, I do understand your fear on that. But right now, we've been there for many years, and we have housing prices that are also going up in Sun City quite a bit. Any other discussion?
Madam President,
Director Akins?
I would also like to add that this increase in the PIF only affects you if you plan on buying another house here in Sun City.
Yes, Secretary Lair.
The only other comment I'd like to make is someone made a comment that Sun City West's PIF fee is less than ours. The amount of amenities we have here compared to Sun City West is dramatic. And what this PIF fee is for is to collect funds ongoing so that we can update and remodel and do major things. And when you have lots of centers, and lots of golf courses, and lots of amenities, it's going to cost money to keep those. So when people buy into Sun City, the PIF fee is buying into RCSC. And we have all invested a lot of money into RCSC, and that's what the fee is. It's somebody coming in has to put a little bit into the bucket to help keep it going.
Yeah, Madam President.
Yes.
I'm sorry, when I said that, I just saw some people shaking their heads. You have to realize that this PIF fee is different from your annual assessment. Mm-hmm. The PIF fee is not the same as your monthly annual assessment.
Not monthly, yearly.
Yearly. I'm sorry, yearly annual assessment. It's not the same as that. The PIF fee is different.
Yes. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask RCSC Secretary Laird to take the roll call vote.
Okay, the motion before you is to approve the Preservation and Improvement Fund budget with a PIF fee at $4,000. Director Hoffer.
No.
Director Westermeyer.
Yes.
Director Akins.
No.
Treasurer Rooney.
Yes.
Vice President Eggy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Director Collins is absent. Director Schrader.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes.
And 2 no.
2 no, 1 abstained.
So that motion passes the second reading. Okay, unfinished business continuing. The second item of unfinished business is the approval of $3,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse for their continued assistance with event parking and facility security in 2022. Do I have a motion?
Madam President?
Yes.
On behalf of the Board of Directors, I I move that we approve the $3,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse for their continued assistance for events, parking, and facility security in 2022.
Do I have a second?
You don't need a second.
I second.
When he says on behalf of the committee. then-
Okay. The motion before you is approval of the $3,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse for their continued assistance with event parking and facility security in 2022. Ms. Johnson, is there anyone that has signed up to speak on this motion?
No, Madam President.
Okay. Director Westmeyer, any comments that you'd like to make first?
No, I think, well, yeah, I guess I do. Over the past years, we've given the posse this kind of money because of their support of the rec centers and all the security they provide for us. And I think it's just appropriate we kind of give something back to them.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, the motion before you is approval of the $3,000 to be paid to the Sun City Posse for their continued assistance with event parking and facility security in 2022. Secretary Laird, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Hoffer.
Yes.
Director Westmeyer.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Director Rooney.
Yes.
Vice President Agee.
Yes.
I vote yes. Director Schrader.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I have 7 yes votes, 0 no votes, so that motion is passing first one. Okay, is there any new business at this time? No. Okay, seeing no new business, we will move to member comments. Marcia, is anyone signed up to speak?
Paula Sandoval, Rachel Trujanovich, Charlie Peterson, Ricky Tolan.
If you will line up, please, at the microphone, and just remember, you need to give your member name and number, and you have 3 minutes.
Rachel Tronovich, member number 157646. And I just wanted to speak on the annual meeting. Article 4 of Section 3 of the bylaws state that once a quorum has been established for any meeting, appropriate business may be conducted and decided on by a majority vote of members that are present. So if a quorum is present for our annual membership meeting next Monday, this bylaw would be invoked, and I would venture to say it needs to be followed. So wanted to make sure that there's a process or procedure in place to accept motions from the membership and to take votes at the membership meeting. So that's my question.
Okay, so your question is?
Is there a process in place?
There is a process in place.
Okay, so
and it's following the bylaws. Once a motion is made and it is seconded, then it comes back to the board for discussion and decision-making, and then it is reported. And then at that time, the membership, if they choose to go ahead, let's say that the board says yes on it, then we vote at the next membership meeting on it. If the board says no, then the membership can get signatures to get that put in a special meeting.
So no voting will actually take place at the membership meeting as directed by the bylaws? I mean, I understand what you're saying as far as the board taking something under advisement or for study.
Right.
But that's for decisions that are under the sole discretion of the board. As the Articles of Incorporation state, the bylaws may be amended, modified, or revised, or revoked by the directors or by the members. And in the event concerning bylaws, if there's a conflict, then the action of the members shall prevail. So this is not something that's under the sole discretion of the board or under the sole responsibility of decision-making by the board.
As I said, if the board says yes, then in the special meeting you would vote on it. If the board says no, you still have the right to get signatures then and bring it to the special meeting to be voted on.
Okay, I think that there's a misunderstanding then between what the bylaws actually state and the articles of incorporation actually state, because it's our understanding that we can bring a motion to the annual meeting and have it decided upon at that time.
You can have a decision made at a meeting. It doesn't necessarily mean it would be at this meeting. Would there be a vote at this meeting? If there's a quorum, yes, it would be to pass the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie Peterson, 130438, member of basketball and volleyball clubs here in Sun City. First, I thought it'd be appropriate just to thank any of you that are moving off the board that have served. I just really appreciate the time and effort that you've put in, and I think that's really noteworthy. As a member of the volleyball and basketball team, we're very excited about the prospect of having a gym at the Mountain View remodel. However, just one question. I think when the long-range committee submitted their recommendations for the Mountain View remodel, it included an indoor climbing wall. And once we heard from the architects, there was nothing mentioned about that. So I was kind of curious what happened to that. Did somebody nix it? That's just a question I have.
Madam President?
Yes.
You know, we appreciated the suggestion. We actually went back to our insurance carrier, and we provided the information about what we were looking at doing, and they were not the least bit happy with it at all. And a lot of it had to do with a lack of control perhaps around the wall and the monitoring that would be required, and they would significantly increase our premium or at the very most exclude that coverage exposure from our coverage. So it wasn't something that we could move forward with, although we did appreciate the fact that it was brought forward.
Well, I think statistically you'd find that there are probably less injuries on an indoor climbing wall than there would be in volleyball, tennis, basketball.
Well, the insurance company didn't believe that, so they have a lot more data about that across the country.
I see.
And they do a lot of it. But when they get into senior communities, it's a little different.
I'm wondering if it, if something could be done to at least accommodate a space for something like that in the future. Something like that could be put in on one end of a gym and a certain time put aside for indoor climbing when the gym wasn't being used for other activities. So just a thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricky Toland, 128792. On November 18th, for the third time, I submitted to the corporate office paperwork for the recall of Sue Wilson. The first time I sent the paperwork in, Bill Cook called me and stated that I needed a violation of a bylaw or an article of incorporation for this to be considered and be more specific. So I rewrote and delivered what I thought was a specific example of the atrocities the board had committed, led by Sue Wilson. It reads as such. Recall board member Sue Wilson for the blatant disregard of the voting RCSC membership. Behind closed doors of the RCSC Corporation Board, spearheaded a devious plan to unseat a democratically elected board member with no cause or notification. Sue Wilson has violated Robert's Rules of Order. Sue Wilson has denied Karen McAdam due process. Sue Wilson authorized the vague email not explaining or justifying the release of Karen McAdams from her duties representing those who voted for her. It took 6 votes behind closed doors to undo what over 700 votes did at the ballot box. My vote is sacred. For these reasons, I believe we need new leadership. I am requesting a control number from the board to start the long journey of recall, which is a very long journey, to see if my fellow members of the corporation feel the same as I. Then I received a letter from the attorneys representing our board of directors, which read, oh boy, we represent the Recreation Center of Sun City, RCSC, as legal counsel. This letter is an official RCSC Board of Directors response to your petition request dated September 23, 2021. We are now in December. Petition for recalling the RCSC Board President Sue Wilson. After review of the RCSC Board of Directors, it was determined that President Sue Wilson has not violated any RCSC article of incorporation or bylaws, and that your reason for petition for the blatant disregard of the voting RCS membership does not specifically identify any violation by President Wilson. Therefore, your petition request has been denied. As such, RCSC considers this matter closed. Article 9, initiative, referendum, and recall petitions. 3 different entities clearly states to me, a recall petition will set forth the name of a board of a director whose removal is desired and the reason for the recall. This says nothing about violation of a bylaw or article of incorporation. I'll be back.
Okay. Now we will open up the floor for anyone who did not sign up but would like to speak. When you approach the microphone, we ask that you state your name and member number. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. And if you make comments and then want to return a second time, we ask that you wait until everyone gets an opportunity to speak.
Bill Pearson, 133438. Couple of points quickly. In regard to Darla's comments about it being twice as high, compare apples to bananas. Sun City West actually charges a single rate payment for rec fees to 40% of its membership. So there's a significant difference. We made a decision. I'm not here to debate the decision. It's just not the same as comparing apples to apples. It truly is different. So that 900 and whatever over in Sun City West is really half that for 40% of the membership. Secondly, I have a point of order. Hopefully the parliamentarian will be able to help us. I have here in my hot little hands the agenda from November 18th, and I'll read you what it says. Bill Cook was going to do a presentation on the Preservation Fee and Improvement Fund, PIF, Budget Board of Directors approval. That's it. There's nothing about an increase of the PIF from $3,500 to $4,000. The whole point of an agenda is that you put on it whatever you're going to propose, and then we know, so that when we walk in the room, we know what you're voting on. Last meeting, when you did the first motion to improve, to increase the PIF, it was never made as a motion. So I think if you check with your parliamentarian, you're in violation of your own rules. Again, kudos, Bill. Your technology person was simply brilliant in going in and ferreting out all the problems with technology. I think after reading it, it's safe to say that we're about 20 years behind. And, you know, I'm not a numbers guy, but looking at it, I would guess we're probably $10 to $20 million in investments to get back up to speed where we should be. So hopefully those of you on the board recognize that when you start talking about these kinds of things, and the $40 million to Mountain View, which will probably be 50 when we're done, because this is one of the rare times I agree with Rich. I think the $40 million is probably well under the number over the next 10 years, which leads me to the question that each one of you have to ask yourselves. Do you really believe you could invest $50 million over the next 10 years in a single rec center? $50 million. We have a net worth in this community, although it's sorely wrong, of $10 or $20 million. Owen, let's see. That means that 60% of your PIF budget will go to one rec center over the next 10 years. That's wholly illogical, guys. This is Sun City, not Sun City Grand or Scottsdale.
The point of order that you brought up today, going back to November 18th, I can't control that because it's passed. So the point of order should have been brought up at November 18th if you had one. Thank you.
So at least you're admitting you did it wrong.
No. No.
Yeah, you did. You know that. Come on, I ran meetings for a living. Jeez.
Ed Kaiser, number 118430. Members of the board, my wife and I have owned our home here in Sun City since 2012. Starting in August of 2020, we became full-time residents. Just recently, I started attending these board meetings based on concerns over the questionable actions taken in regard to dismissing Karen McAdam and the ongoing boondoggle down at Mountain View. There seems to be very little in the way of careful thought given to any kind of a fallback position for these various projects. And I learned long ago, hope is not a strategy. Depending on the kindness of the government to give you a waiver for water usage or building heights is a bad bet. And with the exception of one or two directors on this board, you just seem hell-bent for leather to do it your way or no way. The water concerns are a statewide issue. That's got to be addressed. Long-term plan presentation that Bill put on last week appeared to be scripted so that you could use a very low CPI and come back with, gee, we need to raise this to $4,000. I mean, come on. That's the kind of transparency everyone can see through. In the warranty extension for Fairway for the lawn bowling surface, there's a $500,000 contract you want to award, and you don't have the desire to go ask if we can extend the warranty for 2 or 3 years? Utterly unbelievable. Questions and concerns go unanswered. Right or wrong, the people at Dawn Lake brought up a real good point, and they deserved a response. Instead, the general manager sent us just tell them tough, it's our way or the highway. And in response, the residents at Dawn Lake hired an attorney. So now is that litigation going to come out of the PIF or does it come out of the annual fees? I wondered what the original source for the huge renovation at Mountain View was, and last week Mr. Whiprud stated it sprung from a town hall in 2016, some 5 years ago, and a lot has changed in that time. I only heard one member of this board express any concern whatsoever for the costs that were presented up there, and any concern whatsoever on how to curtail them or mitigate them. I came away confused because they're apparently available to everyone, but nobody had them. So why don't we just raise the PIF to $4,000 or $5,000? Why don't you make it $25,000? Because you're going to need it if you're going to spend $50 million, as Bill pointed out, on one rec center. In closing, I'll just say to prospective board members that you heard by attending these meetings that the expressed concerns are not isolated. Friends and neighbors have commented about this direction, and to those who are fortunate enough to be elected, congratulations.
I've got to interrupt you. Thank you.
Just keep it in mind.
James Kepler, 127409. As two of you know, I was on the planning committee for the Mountain View project. And the final outcome of this was nothing, I won't say nothing, maybe only half of what we proposed. It's true we did not have a budget, but when we looked at where the new theater could go, it could actually be placed right where the existing theater is and eat up some of the space where the tennis courts are. At no time did we discuss ripping up lawn bowling. I know just a couple years ago they completely redid that lawn bowling situation, and now you're going to tear it all up. At no time did we discuss getting rid of the mini golf. I understand that they need to revise that, but it was not talked about. And the pickleball was supposed to get courts, and then in May, when we looked at this first draft, I asked, what happened to the pickleball courts? And all I was told was, well, some neighbors complained about the noise. Well, I live around there. I understand there's some noise from that. But you don't have that many houses out there that you could outnumber all the people that play pickleball. And I don't play pickleball, but I thought they got the raw end of the deal on that thing. I don't understand why we just didn't do the theater where the existing theater space was and eat up some of that tennis courts the way we planned. You wouldn't have to tear up the lawn bowling. You wouldn't have to tear up the mini golf. So that's all I'm saying. None of this was talked about when we sat in our committee, and I was totally shocked the way it ended up. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Francine Feeney, 107473. I have lived in the neighborhood of Mountain View for 10 years, and thank you for finally approving a budget for them. I have been to plays, I've been to the movies there, and finally something should be done. You have approved the budget years ago. Please get started. I want to see a nice place where we can finally see plays there. I have sat in on plays and I can't even see the play. We need a new Mountain View Rec Center. Please get started now. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem?
Yeah.
Ricky Toland, 128792. I thought I could get all that in 3 minutes, but I didn't. My last sentence is, I feel I have satisfied the requirements of this article all 3 times they have been submitted. Please advise on the status of my last submittal. Thank you.
Jean Totten, 148753. I wondered if it had ever, I'm sorry.
No, just wait 1 minute.
Okay, Mr. Ricky, sorry for not getting your last name written down. Tolan, I just heard this morning that there's a discussion or an inquiry by you that you had resubmitted. Okay, can you give us a day to look into that? Because this morning was the first I'd heard of that. Yeah, I saw that. Okay, so let me get with management and we'll get back to you and let you know what we find. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Jean, proceed.
Thank you. Jean Totten, 148753. Excuse me. Perhaps the next time you decide to change the way you're going to run a meeting, you could announce it ahead of time so that we would know and be prepared, so that I wouldn't carry a folder or anything, that the podium was going to be gone or that things were just going to be a little bit different. That's just, communication. I was wondering, I'm sure you know that many of us have been collecting proxy votes. Have any of you board members collected proxy votes?
Yes, as a card holder, some of us have.
As a member, you mean?
And a card holder.
As a card holder. Anyone else want to acknowledge that they did? Okay, and yours were turned in just like all of the rest of us?
I follow the same guidelines as what card holders are asked to follow.
That's all. I just wanted to make sure, that's all. And I just wanted to also remark that I'm sure each board has wanted to leave its mark in the history of Sun City. Are you sure that what you are doing is the legacy that you wish to be known for? Thank you.
Chris Tracy, RCSC member number 125567. I too missed the podium and having to stand in line. I'm getting old. A week from today, after much time and effort, members plan to be right here for the first annual membership meeting since 2009. I want to say thanks to those board members and staff who may have worked in the best interest of the members by helping navigate the proxy learning curve. It was arduous. So my question for today, it's very important that we know the number of verified proxies that were submitted. When will we be told, Ms. Lair, the actual number of verified proxies, and when will those who collected them be notified of the number that they will be representing?
I can't give you a straight answer on that because they're in the process of, well, Bill, go ahead. I know they're not completed yet.
Well, we just want to know when, and it must be before the general meeting.
Of course.
Okay.
Madam President, Secretary Lair, Board of Directors, we collected our last set of proxies on Friday, right around 4 o'clock. Those that have been submitted earlier, we are under the verification process as we speak. Members who brought in proxies will be notified of the total number of verified proxies via email, and if we don't receive confirmation, we will make a phone call to make sure that they know that the number of verified proxies that they have.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to know who.
And it will be done. And it will be done this week.
Okay.
So it will be done this week.
I just want to know who is doing the verification process. Through the procedures, it says RCSC will be doing it.
It's through
Is that board members, GM,
No.
an auditor, a parliamentarian? Who is RSC doing it?
Madam President, Board of Directors, yes, we are using our cardholder services organization. Those are the folks that actually, have face-to-face interaction with our members. And we are also utilizing our corporate executive coordinator as well to provide verification.
So when you say this week, that will be before Monday? Yes. And how will that be communicated to us?
She told you.
Total quorum will be added, the proxies as well as those actually in attendance to the meeting will be verified on Monday at the meeting, and a total quorum number will be verified and given to the board at that time.
Unacceptable, we need to know before.
You will know before. You will
We
know.
won't know how many people were at the meeting, so we won't know the quorum.
Thank you.
Well, we won't know the quorum, but you'll know if you've gotten your proxies, how many proxies were approved.
Yes.
That you will know.
Good morning. My name is Jim Cowie, member number 151350. I'm really fairly new here to Sun City and really, really enjoying it. But before I got here, I did a lot of research and looked at Del Webb and looked at the history of this place. And what got me was he asked the question, what do the people want? And he provided that surrounding the facilities and created Sun City. And still to this day, I wish people would ask, what would he say about Sun City right now? I wish there was a way we could do some sort of email survey. If you represent all of the homeowners, ask the homeowners what they want. Some way, if they want more of this, less of this, I wish there was some way we could do that. As an example, pickleball players. The membership, to my knowledge, is 700 and only growing. Only growing. Why not? If that's the case, if people want more pickleball courts, give them more courts. The demand is there. Number two, I wish I knew the income for golfing. What money comes in for golf and the expenses. I don't know that number. I'd like to know it. Nothing against golfers. I hope the number is very, very high for the income. Just would like to know it. Number three, speaking of pickleball again, right now in phase one, we have Mountain View. There is no pickleball courts in phase two. Marinette, obviously, phase three we have them. It might be an option somehow, some way, phase two, to put pickleball courts for a demand, if there's a demand there. So every area, every phase has pickleball courts. But again, I repeat, if you had asked Del Webb to this day, what would he think of Sun City right now? What would he say? Hey, I like what they're doing. Or why not ask the people what they want? What they want. Times are changing. If there's more demand for this or less demand for this, give the people what they want. But you're all speaking for all of us. All of us. So I just want to consider that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Patrick Gannon, member number 150056. And just to piggyback on the last gentleman's comments, my understanding, and I'm relatively new here, looking back at the minutes, the Long Range Planning Committee worked for over a year and a half on a survey to send out to all the members exactly what he was asking for. And in my experience of committee work to boards, there has to be a huge reason why the full board would overturn the work of a committee. But I saw that survey was just voted down by the full board. And I know there were reasons that were given, but a year and a half's work just voted down without a lot of discussion. I didn't think that was real prudent. But my other comment is I think the card-holding membership and the board really needs to work together, as this gentleman and others have said. The way the bylaws are written now, the membership has almost no power. There are such convoluted steps to achieve anything that the members are trying to get quorums on, the quorum number is very high. I think that needs to be looked at. I know that was looked at by a committee. I think it needs to be re-looked at in 2022 by the new board, assign a new committee. There has to be a more equal sharing of power. I mean, there's a lot of people here, and you guys have responsibilities. We have responsibilities. But it's really hard to get things done from our side coming into the board. So my request is that the bylaws I'm requesting bylaws need to be looked at and rewritten. They need to be simplified. I mean, I'm a reasonably intelligent person, and I have read those bylaws, and there's inconsistencies, I think, with the Articles of Incorporation. It should just flow one from the other. And I just really want that request to be heard. And I've talked to other people, other card holders that are very frustrated. And so let's work together on this. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Hosking. I'm not a good speaker. 146289. I've been here maybe 4 years now. I was a full-time nurse, so I couldn't come to a lot of the meetings. I did make a few of my requests about putting a storage unit in my backyard, a little place to put my tools and some other things outside. Nobody ever got back to me. In the past,
Kathy, I would like to say, if you came to this board asking for a storage shed, you're talking to the wrong board.
Okay, well, I did come to a couple
Show up.
meetings. Yeah, sure. But it's just, a lot of people came here in the past, and then they went back to they were snowbirds. A lot of people are now coming here and living here full-time, not like it used to be. So I think that our needs as living here full-time versus what the part-timers used to should be looked at, because we're here all the time. Of course, we need to store stuff. We want to go to the rec centers. We want to enjoy our retirement. And we don't want to be frustrated with added fees, more money. Some of us are on fixed incomes, and that, it gets difficult for them to purchase a home and then have to move away because they can't afford the fees. They're not getting their needs met. Then we're losing our senior community, who we should respect. They've earned their retirement, and they've earned to enjoy their retirement and not have to be frustrated with these small little petty things that, we need to respect our board, and the board needs to respect us to our needs and what we're expecting of our retirement when we've invested a lot of money in our homes and the move here. So, that's my whole thing, is that, I like to keep things fair and equal. But, our voice needs to be heard. We pay the money, and we want to be heard. That's all we're asking.
And Kathy, just so you know, we're not raising the annual assessment. The fee that you paid last year for your annual assessment is the fee you'll pay next year. That is not raised.
Thank you.
And Madam President,
yes,
that will be year number 6 that has not been raised, and we are still the cheapest retirement community in the country.
Yes, we are.
In addition to all the amenities that you are.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons I moved here. I'm enjoying kayaking and different things, and I'm very pleased with what we have.
Okay.
But realistically, you have to understand that it cannot stay like this forever.
No. Okay. Everything's going up.
We need to move on. Thank you.
Rachel Tronovich, 157646, and I just wanted to bring this up again. I apologize if I'm beating a dead horse here, but I wanted to read this. I'm concerned about the membership quorum and the annual meeting because, as Pat alluded to, it's the one venue by which members have an opportunity to possibly initiate change. So this is right from the bylaws. Once a quorum has been established for any meeting, appropriate business may be conducted and decided by a majority vote of members present. So that indicates that members present at the annual meeting can vote and decide on an agenda item brought forth at that meeting. Am I really off base here? Does it have to be deferred to another meeting at which we may not have a quorum? So if I can obtain clarification for the group on that.
If you read Section 4 of Membership Meeting Rules and Regulations, it says proposals or matters relating to the conduct of business affairs of the corporation, if brought before a membership meeting, shall be referred to the board for study. Such matters being solely within the powers delegated to the board in accordance with the laws of the state of Arizona and corporate documents will be considered only as a recommendation to the board.
Right, I agree. Being solely within the powers delegated to the board. Some changes are not the sole power of the board. As I read from the Articles of Incorporation, bylaws may be amended by directors or by members, and in the event of conflict concerning the bylaws, the action of the members shall prevail. So the items for study would be those items that are powers delegated to the board. But bylaw changes are partially the responsibility of the membership, and the members should have an opportunity to initiate changes. Am I reading this wrong? I mean, it seems pretty plain to me. So the meeting's next week, and we need to have a process in place to be able to take action at that meeting, is all I'm saying, not defer to another meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Christie Svensson, 137489, and again, I echo what Rachel just said, and also I am very concerned that we're not going to learn how many proxies we have until the night or the day of the meeting. I think we should be notified beforehand the number of proxies that are going to be there, so we can storm the neighborhoods and invite people to come for free cookies and pretty good coffee. But we really do need to know. And I'm sorry to put pressure on these guys, because Karen at the administrative office has been awesome. But she is up to her neck. I can tell that she is really tired of all this. So, thank you.
The verification, obviously, those who brought in the proxies will be notified this week of how many of their proxies were verified and accepted. By email or by phone, yeah.
John Nowakowski, 137154. With the discussion on next week's meeting, looks like the board has an interpretation of Section 4 of the bylaws. Some of the members have an interpretation of Section 3. I would certainly hope that before the meeting we have a known methodology of which we're going to follow. The bylaws tell us which we should follow. I hope the board has that same agreement. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Dave.
First off, this is on the PIF.
Oh, name and number.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dave Whelan, 17077. I'd like to point out that Rich and I have finally agreed on the PIF increase. It only took 7 years, but we finally agreed. Concerning the PIF increase, it's based on a fallacy on property transfers. That's where the money comes from. And the number that Brian has used was the same number they used in 2015 and probably years before. That number is not based in reality, and he knows it. And the board should know it. It should be more realistic. They're using a little over 1,700 property transfers per year to do their projections, when the home sales have been in excess of 2,300, probably since 2015. So any argument in favor of increasing the PIF is a bit specious, because it really doesn't need to be increased. And those projections are from this magic fairyland. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Happy. Bill Pearson, 133438. I'm delighted to hear people talk about their interest in history, perhaps the most unique history of any age-restricted community, Rich. I think there's over 1,000 of them in the country right now. Sun City is unlike every other, and for 45 years was spectacular in scope and understanding and working in conjunction with the membership. In fact, here's a paper that was given to board members, and it said, now that you're a director, a guide for new board members. Guess what the first point of order, excuse the pun, was in this? Representing your membership. Imagine that. It was, as Rich likes to say, a symbiotic relationship with the membership and the board working in conjunction, and the management team fit in there, but it was somewhere after this opening piece. because for 45 years we existed as a community that worked together. The bylaws from 2005, before the GM left, you could pick them up, open them up, read them, and understand what they said. My God, how refreshing is that? And for 15 years, we had bylaws written and rewritten and rewritten, so that if you read the Articles of Incorporation and then you read the bylaws, you're going, huh? Because they are a mumbled, jumbled mess. I would argue they're done on purpose. I would argue an attorney probably loves them, because I learned to write clear and unambiguous language. Attorneys love ambiguous language. Let's confuse the hell out of them, and nobody will know what we're saying. We need to go back to those first 45 years. We need to return to that relationship where you don't hate the membership and we don't hate you, because that's not how we were built. There's not a person in this room that doesn't love Sun City. And I mean from you on the stage to us sitting in the room. But I've heard now several times somebody ask about proxy votes. Here's how I would interpret it very quickly. If a person brought in 50 or 75 or 90 proxy votes, they submitted them, they're going to be accounted for, and the minute you account for them, they become the number that's fixed for the quorum. Whoever walks in the door, that's another set of numbers. But there's not a person in this room that turned in proxies that shouldn't know how many total proxy votes there were. That's a very simple process. So hopefully you'll follow that. That'll be a good start in us returning back to the good old days of when we worked together. Thank you.
Madam President, can I
Yes, Secretary Leary.
Bill, we don't hate you. We don't hate the members. I don't know if that feeling is reciprocal, but
I don't hate anybody, Dale.
Oh, you said. Members, and you hate us and we hate you, and it's
If
like,
you
that's
go
not true.
online, I've written, I don't hate anybody. I resent what's happened over the last 15 years, because this isn't how Sun City was built. It was never intended to be you versus us.
Were you
And
on
that's
the
what
board
it
in the
felt
last
like.
15 years?
Okay.
Were you on the board for the?
I've been in the room. I've been here for near on 20 years. I know
you
the
sit
history.
up here in
I
the
have
last-
sat up there, Dale. You know that.
I know. I'm just asking.
Okay. Moving on.
Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed that.
Okay, at this time, does any member of the board have any comments they would like to make? And again, you'll have 3 minutes to make your comments as indicated by the light on the stage.
Madam President.
Yes, Secretary Lear.
I have two comments to make. The first one is I'm the liaison for the Sun City's Area Museum, and they're looking for volunteers interested in serving as docents at the museum. The docents help to guide the museum visitors through the house, tell the story of Del Webb and the Sun Cities. If you're interested, prospective docents will be given extensive training and will work alongside other docents. It's a great opportunity for those who appreciate local history or the museum and enjoy meeting people. The next new docent training session will be on January 6th. If you're interested, please call 623-974-2568. Again, that number is 623-974-2568. Or you can visit their website, delwebbsuncitiesmuseum.org. My second comment, you know, as a board member, and it's hard sometimes when you have people coming up and it's like you have half the story and there isn't enough time to fill in the blanks. So I'm really looking forward to the board member exchange. But anyways, comments that were made that we just are, I want you to know that I personally, and in working with a long-range planning committee, we have spent a phenomenal amount of time this year working on capacity analysis, utilization analysis, and trend analysis. Why would we do that? Well, first of all, trending helps us know what members want, what's popular, what's growing, and what's not so popular anymore. So that answers somebody's question today. And another reason why is it's really important to control operational costs. If we keep building everything everybody wants, but we really don't know if we need it or not, if we're not using it to its capacity, That's going to affect your annual assessment, not the PIF fund, but what you pay on an annual basis. That's really important. So we're not just out here pie in the sky dreaming stuff up here. There's so much work involved in getting down to this information. And I hope that you appreciate that as members. This is not an easy job by any shake of the imagination. And oh, did I tell you, we get paid absolutely nothing. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other board member?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes, Director Akins.
I heard somebody mention earlier that we have not had an annual meeting since 2009. That's not all the information. That's not correct. We have not had a quorum since 2009. We have an annual meeting every year. We did not have it this past year, this past February because of COVID, which is why we're having it now in December, because you guys asked us to have one this year, so we decided to go ahead and schedule one for next week, because we were going to postpone it until February of 2022. But we decided, we heard you, and we decided to go ahead and do that. Having a exact number of a quorum by Friday is going to be a little tough because of the fact that we may know how many proxies everybody will have, but we don't know how many people are going to show up at the meeting. And then if somebody shows up at the meeting that signed the proxy, that's going to cancel out the proxy. So all those kind of things take into place, so we won't have an exact number of a quorum until the meeting, but we will know, and you will know how many proxies have been signed, and you will know how many proxies you have before the meeting.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
Well, I guess I want to say one more thing, Madam President.
Okay.
I have to say that our management and the board in the past 15 years that I've been living here, 16 years now, has done a phenomenal job at keeping your assessments and your fees at a reasonable rate. Like I said, we have not had any increase in the last 5 to 6 years. They have done a really good job, and look at the big projects that we have been able to accomplish and to do, and still keep your fees at a reasonable rate so that everybody can enjoy their retirement and enjoy their life out here in Sun City. So the management and the board has done a phenomenal job, past boards. And like I said, it's going to have to increase eventually because it can't stay like this forever. But it has been very reasonable and been under control for the last 5 to 6 years.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Our next meeting is December 16th, 2021, here in the Sundial Auditorium at 9 a.m. There being no further business and without objection, any objection? This meeting will be adjourned? Yep. Seeing no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.